We'll go close. There we go. Well. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Always nice to just go for a random live stream when you feel like it. This is why you hit the bell. Or at least ring the bell, shall we say. Ring a ding ding. Oh, dear me. Oh, dearie, dearie me. Chilla the Coda, good morning. Good morning to you. Oh, welcome to this wonderful... I've called it the Song of Rishiy May, but maybe I'll go and rename it later to the Ballad of Rishiy May. Pretty bird, greetings to you. Tilly, seems like Rishiy Dishy may need to dish up the lettuce for himself. Potentially. That could be very well what happens. Kroban, hello, good morning to you as well. Because that is indeed what we're talking about. Honestly, we still don't know what's in this deal, agreement, whatever. But we know they're pretty significant. Oh, is that... Christoph, good morning to you from South Germany. Good morning to you. Or guten Morgen, as we shall say, as I remember from my German lessons. But this is one clear example of we've got no idea what's in there, but we do know because Marcus Sovak yep. Because Marcus Sovak has summoned, I say summoned. Loki's children, good morning to you. Eddie, salutations, salutations and good morning to you as well. But because Marcus Sovak has been talking to the EU 27 or 28, I suppose now it has been, since is it Croatia? Was it Croatia had joined? I can't remember. But they have been talking, and if there was going to be like a serious change or alteration to the protocol in some way, shape or form, then this is what you would see. So I think this might be actually quite big when we actually get to see the details. Do you think Sunak will say vote for the deal or call a general election? Potentially. But we don't know what he'll do. And it all depends on what pushback he gets. Now, he's already getting, to be honest, serious pushback. And as I've said before, he can only really use that threat of a general election once. You can't really go, you know, oh, if you don't do it, I'll call a general election. Oh, if you don't do it now, I'll really call a general election. Because that type of threat only really works once, and it's very, very easy for just someone to call your bluff. Oh, Sam, good morning to you. Rishi doesn't have the guts. Yeah, exactly. This is what I think is going to happen. I do not think he's got the guts at all to stand up to the ERG at all, because that's who he needs to. And this is essentially now a future collision course, because it doesn't matter. Some conservative leader of the party in the future will have to take on the ERG. It's absolutely inevitable. But when that happens, who knows? But anyway, Dennis, hello from Western Australia. Good morning to you. Or good evening, as it may be. But whatever, g'day, as they say, in my strange Australian accent. P, good morning to you. Okay, yeah, we need to get the toys out. Exactly. I don't think it's even possible to do a deal with the current Conservative Party in power. I think it is absolutely impossible. PE. How could you possibly call that a threat? Everyone will be more than happy to see you go. Exactly. This is the situation and difficulty, to be honest, Sunak finds himself in. He's not in a strong position, and yet even Jacob Rees-Mogg sort of accepts and acknowledges the fact that Rishi Sunak has spent a lot of his political capital, or at least any he had left, because it's not like he had a lot to spend in the first place, on trying to get this deal done. And already the DUP are basically saying, we're not going to vote for this. We're not going to accept it. So this deal seems to be dead before we've even seen what the details of the deal are. And you've also got senior sort of Brexiteers in the ERG screaming at Rishi, show us the deal, show us the deal, show us the deal. So far, no deal yet, which leads me to believe that whatever is in this deal, Sunak doesn't want it getting out, and he wants to try and force this through. I really think that's maybe what his plan might be. But if he does, well, there's going to be some serious consequences to it. That's for sure. But it's just what that might be. And it might be letters to Sir Graham Bradley. It may just be the ERG put forward a vote in Parliament, maybe even to scupper his own deal. Honestly, we just don't know. And that's the thing. Until we actually see what is in this deal, we don't know. But the DUP have already pretty much said, yeah, we're rejecting it. So it's going to be interesting. Oh, number 3, good morning to you. Eddie, the opposition might support it. Yeah, even if Sunak gets support from Labour, it's far, far from certain that he might survive. It could get interesting very quickly. You know, as I said, Tuesday was meant to be the big sort of marquee selling point for this deal when we're meant to see everything. But so far, we haven't seen anything. And that's slightly worrying, of course, the fact that we haven't seen anything. But Catho G, good morning to you. P, the opposition would most likely support it, but that would weaken Rishi than the King even more. Yep, exactly. Dennis, the immigration policy being run in the UK is imported from Australia. Sorry, guys. Yeah, we know it's not good. But like I said, I don't think it even worked in Australia, to be honest. But then again, they're reaching as far as they can. A lot of people have said it seems very sort of end of government-y, if that makes sense. So I'll have to see what happens. Patrick H, good morning to you. Sheen Fallon, the DUP will reject any deal. Yep, exactly. They're already making noises that they're going to reject it. They're already saying we're going to reject this deal, and it's like, okay. So then what? I mean, this is the big question. Hang on, there we go. This is the big question I think everyone's asking of what does Sunak do if he brings in this deal, he passes the vote, and then the DUP still say, well, this still hasn't met our 7-test proposal, which, to be honest, it's never going to do, because the DUP's 7-test proposal, the bare minimum that the DUP would accept would be the complete ripping up of the Northern Ireland Protocol. That would be the bare minimum. The DUP would like some sort of geological event that separates. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, it's just what do you do? What do you do if this deal is good? It sorts out most of the problems on the with the protocol. Then what do you do? And I really don't think that they have an idea of what to do. Nick B, good morning to you. Eric, good morning to you. So it's going to be essentially that there's a new protocol. I suspect that there's going to be a new protocol in place. That's what I suspect. Just a new protocol. And then essentially the DUP are still going to be up in arms saying this is a betrayal, this is not what we wanted, etc., etc. Continuation of their current rhetoric. Chili Dakota, the DUP has the 7 tests, but in reality, it's basically them saying, saying I want a unicorn, but unicorns don't exist. And yeah, they make one. Well, that's DUP in one sentence. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Patrick H will look awfully like Theresa May's proposal. Exactly. This is it. This is why. In literally the past sort of 24 hours, Rishi Sunak's new moniker has become Rishiy May, which is kind of funny. But even then, if, let's say, he does a backstop, well, like I say, we've got to, we can only really guess at what's in this deal, and we can only really speculate at this moment, because again, we don't know what's in. We do not know what is in being proposed at this moment in time. But from what we've heard, it's meant to be similar to Theresa May's, which is kind of funny because if this deal goes through and it is a backstop proposal, oh, good morning, Fox. If this goes through, then what on earth happens to a lot of the other big Brexity bills, like the retained EU law bill? Because all of a sudden, the UK might find itself in the customs union. I mean, you've got to remember that if, as we've said, Markus Sovak has been talking with the ambassadors to the EU. So this signals potentially a very big change. But as I say, at the moment, we just don't know what this change would be. So if it is the backstop proposal that May put forward, or maybe it's going to be the backstop but renamed something else. As I said, we just don't know. We don't know until we see the details. Then essentially the UK could find itself back in the customs union, which would certainly upset pretty much all the Brexiteers. And then that itself would cause all kinds of kerfuffles. Patrick H is the triangle. Yes, just to let you know, guys, we will be entering the Barnsley Triangle soon. So should we lose connection or anything like that, please do stay tuned. We will try and restore service as soon as we can. Some people are saying the DUP are primarily concerned with loyalist drug gangs getting their supplies into Northern Ireland. The DUP want the Troubles again? Yeah. They basically just want the hard border. That's essentially what they want. They pretty much want to destroy the Good Friday Agreement because they've never ever agreed with that. They were sort of forced into it in many a way, and they've never really accepted it. So I suppose that's the still big, the $1 million question. How do you want then, if Sunak passes whatever deal he passes and the DUP still refuse to go back into government in Stormont, well, at that point, what do you do? It's the $1 million question. Because I don't think anything changes. I think the only thing that might change is the protocol. And then, potentially, if this is a, May-type deal, as I suppose a couple of, Brexiteers have been calling it, I suppose it will change significantly the trading agreements. I mean, we'll be in the single market customs union. I suppose that will alleviate much of the stress on the economy. It will certainly give a lot of businesses a lot more certainty, that's for sure, being in the single market customs union. It's just how does it all work out, and that's the big $1 million question. And we can guess, we can speculate, but until we know really what's in the deal, we're gonna have to wait. And that's the annoying, because the more we wait, or at least I would say Sunak doing this is, or at least dragging this out, is a stupid idea, because it gives the DUP, it gives the ERG, and it gives certainly Boris and Liz Truss time to plot mutinies, time to plot rebellions, and we're already seeing it. We are already seeing it. You know, we've got Suella Braverman on resignation watch. Oh, thank you very much, Utros. We know the Tories don't really give a start about Northern Ireland and the DUP, since they don't need their votes at the moment. What do you think Labour would do after the next general election? Thank you very much for that and his support. Well, this is it, because even if let's game this out. Let's say Rishi's deal goes through, and this deal essentially brings in. Oh, good morning, Raoul. Good morning. Oh, so sorry. Good morning, Rude. You know, let's say, let's go on the opinion of that the backstop idea is the one that's being pushed. Let's assume for the time being that is the case. What you would suspect would be that at that point, not only does this get rid of not only does this get rid of the potential threat, it also gets rid of the border in the Irish Sea, because after all, we're in the customs union. So let's base on this fact that that's the case, and let's say the DUP are still going to go back into office. To be honest, at that point, Starmer's just going to have to stare down, I think, the DUP and just go, look, you're being idiots. You wanted this. Hang on. Got some morning pony for you. So Starmer's going to have to go, look, you wanted this. You wanted Brexit. These are the consequences of what you want. We're not going to, you know, faff about. Oh. Morning. I haven't got anything for you, unfortunately. But there you go. You know, Starmer's just going to have to stare down the DUP, I think. I think that's his only option. I really don't see how he does, you know, anything else. And just make them look like complete fools, I suppose, in the eyes of the public. That is, I suspect, maybe his only option of what Labour could really do. I mean, he could even say, look, you know, we are in the single market customs union now. Well, we're in the customs union now, not the single market. This gets rid of the border in the Irish Sea. So that's one of your deals that gets claimed. You've said you want, you know, direct rule over of, you know, the UK, to follow UK laws. Well, because the UK is in the customs union, we're going to be following, you know, European Union rules. So at that point, I suppose that point gets cleared, which again are the two biggest hurdles really for this deal, and they're 7 points. But yeah, I think, as you said, what would Labour do potentially after the next general election? I think that's maybe their only chance. They've just got to stare the DUP down and just make them look like complete and utter fools. And even then, Starmer will probably end up doing, alignment deals on this, which will essentially, make the DUP look even more stupid from a political and trade point of view. And essentially, he should just embarrass them back into office. Just make it look like, the complete fools and clowns that they are. Of course, there will always be very, very much a factor in Northern Ireland politics. Very much so, because they are one of the largest unionist parties, and again, how power sharing works, they'll pretty much always have that veto to do this. So in reality, that's really all Starmer could do. And I know someone said, was it Loki's Children? Yeah, Loki's Children, let Ireland be unified. Well, here's the thing, at that point, we've said it before, if you go for Irish unification, it doesn't solve problems in Northern Ireland. Absolutely not. If anything, the then Irish government is going to have to then deal with a whole lot of messes. And who knows what, shall we say, the unionist paramilitary forces may decide to kick off. Because they've already been threatening to kick off over this. So Irish unification is not essentially the simple answer I think everyone hopes that it would be. It would not solve the idea that there's going to be, and trust me, there will be a lot of problems that the Irish government would have to deal with. And then, of course, I think you've got to ask, do the people of Ireland seriously want Northern Ireland back if they know it's going to cause this amount of trouble, with the DUP causing trouble in not only the Parliament, but aligning with other certain hard right factions, maybe even, Christian factions, but aligning with them on certain religious grounds. There's a ton of questions that Irish unification really does bring up, and it's not the simple answer everyone hopes. There we go. Hopes that it would be. It would be an incredibly difficult period, to be honest, and let's say it probably would not be a peaceful time, unfortunately, but that's just the lay of the land, and that's the reality on the ground, unfortunately. Patrick H. Sinn Féin, the biggest party in Stormont. There is an argument to bring the Irish government into the decision-making process in Northern Ireland. Yeah, exactly. But that's what would scare the DUP even more. The second if you started doing that, well, the DUP would kick off even more. Like I say, the situation in Northern Ireland has always and very much been, even after the Good Friday Agreement, very, very one much of people stepping on eggshells in the region. Because they know, of course, what the consequences are of the deal. And if it were to break, and like I say, no one really wants to break it. Cows down there. No one really wants to break it, because it has been overall, quite a successful peace deal. Kavalan, good morning to you. Bit like the UK rejoining the EU. Maybe not with the potential violence factor involved, but yeah. And of course, this is, I think any questions around, reunification have to really should really be asked. I mean, how do you then accommodate and integrate what would be these unionist areas, or that section of Northern Ireland into Ireland? There's huge questions around that, and it's not easy. And to be honest, I think anyone wanting Irish unification, and certainly this should be a conversation that people in Northern Ireland or not Northern Ireland, but Ireland should be having. How would we bring those people into Northern Ireland? Because I suspect any border poll is going to be met with a significant unionist, certainly backlash. That's for sure. Normally, number 10 is asking Sinn Féin. Well, the thing is, Sinn Féin actually want to form a government. They're the ones not blocking it at the moment. It's the DUP that are blocking it. And because of how power sharing works and all the whole agreement in Northern Ireland, you sort of can't have a straight up vote. There's been a lot of people talking about maybe it's time to remove that power sharing agreement. I don't know if that would be a solution to this. Because, like I say, I think any move like that significantly would obviously, I think, bring with it a significant threat to peace, not only just in Northern Ireland, but Ireland as well. This is why I said we've got to be somewhat careful and really, really think about the decisions that are made in regard to this. And ultimately, if Rishi May really does want to propose a Northern Ireland backstop, proposal that brings us into the customs union, then to be honest, there's a couple of points that the DUP can no longer use. And at that point you can just say, well, if you really want to oppose this deal, or oppose these laws that you find so unquestionable, then at that point you've got to go back into government. It's that's how I see it working out. But at the moment, if you want my honest opinion, I think this could go two ways. Either A, Sunak brings out his deal, the DUP and ERG kick off, there is a significant enough rebellion, Sunak loses, gets potentially turfed out, and of course potentially we go to another general election. It's entirely possible. Whether Boris Johnson gets back in or not, that's incredibly questionable, because the party does not want him back. He might have a support, but he doesn't have total party support, so you could potentially see Johnson being beaten on that front. And then, of course, the other way is that essentially what happens is Sunak passes his deal and the DUP just still refuse to go back into Stormont. So even though there's now a new deal on the table, there's sort of no change. We're still at step one. The DUP will still be saying, we've got to meet our 7 proposals on this. And essentially, well, there's just no change. Till his coda. If Sunak's positions is threatened, would he just call a general election instead of getting a new leader? Well, I think he and the rest of the party, of certainly the Conservative Party, know full well that if they went to a general election pretty much any time soon, they've got a very, very big chance of losing. Oh, Teds, good morning to you from Cornwall. And I think that's the danger. That's the problem that he makes for himself, that even if he does seriously go for a general election, his chances of actually winning this general election are incredibly low. Incredibly low. So the Viking. Sunak is not making a new deal. He's explaining to the EU how the UK will finally honour its agreement. The DUP will say no to everything away until after the local elections in Northern Ireland. Well, the thing is, I think there is going to be something. I think there is going to be a significant change in some way, because, like I say, Marko Sovac has been talking with the EU ambassadors. So I think there is, maybe potentially, but of course we don't know until we see what this is. And if this is, as a lot of people have been suggesting, very close to Theresa May's deal, maybe it's a new version of the backstop, or maybe it's just the backstop but called something else. At that point, maybe they will. Because it's not just, of course, Rishi Sunak that's desperate to try and put an end to this whole Northern Ireland saga. It's the EU as well that want to bring this to a close as well. So it's the big question is, and just what we don't know at the moment is just what it is being proposed. We just don't know. And until we know, we've got no idea what it is. But the DUP are already pretty much gearing up to reject it. So it's sort of almost pointless, to be honest, Rishi Sunak doing anything, because the DUP are going to reject it. And then, well, like I say, at that point, the only thing that's changed might be the Northern Ireland Protocol. But like I say, we don't know what changes are essentially being proposed at this moment in time. I mean, we just don't know. cannot be a version of the backstop. There is no way the UK can be committed to the single market or customs union as a third country. It actually can, because the UK, if it joined the customs union, would then have to align on EU rules and regulations. Then, like I say, at that point, the retained EU law bill just goes up in smoke. That's the honest thing that I could see happening. If it does go in, well, essentially we become like Turkey at that point. You know, I can see us just very easily being admitted just into the customs union and sort of not single market. And then sort of the UK, or at least Rishi Sunak, saying yes, we will follow alignment on EU laws and regulation. I see that how it's happening. Daily Blaze, good morning to you. What's the general thought on getting rid of them and having a president like an American has? Probably not going to happen. How does the UK demonstrate alignment? Well, like I say, at the moment, we're technically aligned with the EU pretty much now, almost. It just comes down to the regulations that the EU passes. I mean, you just go, okay, because remember, we've done this before. I think people forget we've done this before. We passed back in like 90, I think it was like 93, 94, when we passed this, an alignment deal when we were entering, or at least signing up to, you know, the Maastricht Treaty to be able to do that. You said you were in alignment, but how does anyone else know? Well, at that point, we would be following EU rules and regulations. You would have all the government departments following EU laws and regulations. Not only that, we've also got, at the moment, just done a data sharing agreement and deal. So the EU sort of knows and would know if we weren't, because you've got to sort of say, yes, we are following these rules and regulations. And lots of UK businesses, Pony just sneezed, lots of UK businesses would very much gladly keep on following UK alignment anyway. So oh, we go. So these things are possible. It's just, does Rishi Sunak actually have the political, you know, will to be able to do it? And if he hasn't, well, he's sort of got to go to a general election. And, you know, alignment on, you know, EU standards and regulations is pretty much, well, that's in the, probably going to see that in the Labour manifesto. So I don't really, like I say, I don't really see how it doesn't happen. It's got to happen, to be honest, at the moment. Morning. Germany calls the shots. No, certainly not. I mean, you just got to look at the EU Parliament. I mean, the EU Parliament, predominantly the largest faction in there is the Socialists. There's a massive socialist bloc in the EU Parliament. In fact, I think it's still the biggest faction in the EU Parliament. And most of them, the vast majority of them, I think, come from all over the place. So, again, the idea that Germany calls the shots, no, America calls the shots. Exactly. This is what I've been saying since the very beginning. It is unbelievable to think that such a small party can just hold everyone to ransom, but no, that's exactly what they're doing. So I don't see how you know, it's, I've said it before numerous times, it's completely unfair what the DUP are doing at this moment in time, especially with all, you know, cost of living crisis that you have in the government. There's so many things, you know, the Northern Ireland government could be doing to help people during at this time of the moment, but they can't because of the DUP. It's yeah, frustrating, I know. And to be honest, I think, you know, maybe the protocol will change, but you can't change the DUP. I think that's really how you sum it up. Phil says Sunak should just call the ERG's bluff. Well, the ERG are very prepared in their threats. The ERG would gladly go to a general election because they would gladly fight a general election based on the fact that you know, Rishi Sunak is going to betray Brexit. And as I said before, Sunak only gets to use that once. That threat of a general election can only be used once, because at that point the ERG could easily call Sunak's bluff on that and just go, well, okay, call one, because we're not changing our position, because the ERG are not going to change their position, just like the DUP are. They are nothing but roadblocks along this way. So if Sunak did say, back me or else I'll call a general election, the ERG could very well easily just turn around and just go, okay, call one. Then what? Is at that point, if the ERG call his bluff on that, if the ERG do that, then Sunak either A, actually has to call a general election, or looks like a completely incompetent leader and being unable to call through any of his threats. And at that point, he really just becomes the weak leader that so far he has shown himself to be. So even if Sunak did call the ERG's bluff, the ERG would very easily just turn around and just go, well, okay, call one, because we're fine to fight a general election on this. And bear in mind, Sunak probably does not want to call a general election because he knows the polls. He knows the polls, where at the moment Labour have a 23 point lead. And all the polling have been showing a absolute Tory wipeout, with them left than less than 100 seats. And I think that is what Sunak is currently desperately trying to do. But of course, you know, the ERG are doing everything but to play along with that idea. But yeah, he could do that, and then essentially the ERG just says, okay, call one. Yeah, Adrian Wilson, yeah, Sunak has the same dilemma all post-Brexit Tory leaders have had. Do what's positive for the country, or do what's easier and beneficial for himself and his own ambition. Exactly. I've said it before, I think there's going to be a general election this year. I really think there is. But yeah, that's the situation we're in. It's a difficult one. I'm not going to lie, it's a difficult one, and there are no easy solutions to it. They're all very, very difficult and will come with very, differing outcomes on this. I mean, even if we do go to a general election, why would the DUP suddenly agree to go back into Stormont under a Labour government? Will the Tory party polls be utterly trashed if they replace the leader again and be completely irrecoverable? Potentially. I mean, they know they can't change another leader. They absolutely know they cannot go for another leader. But there are factions in the Tory party that are just like, you know what? If we don't like our leader, we can just get rid of them. And then the problem is, because you've gotten rid of the leader, there are now other factions that are there that are like, well, we don't like that leader, so we're going to get rid of him. This is what the big problem is in the Tory party, that they have accepted almost regicide as Tory party policy. And that is what is making them, or at least contributing them, one of the many things that's making the party completely ungovernable, especially along Brexit lines as well. So, yeah. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining me today on this somewhat surprise Good Morning Walk. Like I say, I hope you've enjoyed the Song of Rishiy May. Or I may go back and just rename it as the Ballad of Rishiy May. I think I might do that because it sounds better. But anyway, as always, thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you very much for popping along, joining me. Thank you very much for all the support you guys have shown, as always. Like I say, please do remember to hit the like and share button on your way out. And of course, remember to leave down a comment down below as well. So, as always, have a fantastic day, everyone. Have a fantastic weekend. Yes, we will see you this weekend for a Good Morning Walk on Saturday. And of course, we'll see you all very soon.